exclusively used athletic parks and dilapidated, blighted community parks. And, you know, even the small, well-maintained natural areas had a positive impact on real estate values. High active recreation areas, they actually caused a decline in real estate values. And think about it, you know, you didn't necessarily want to, you know, live next door to a football stadium unless you're a football fan, right? But anyway, so that was some fascinating stuff. One more slide down. One of the validations of John's work, the National Association of Realtors, they published a magazine called Common Ground. And I used to read that thing religiously because realtors did a better job communicating the value of open space than any park people did. And one of the surveys that they did, one of the results, why people buy property, why they buy houses, highway access, walking trails is right behind ease of access to getting to work, right? Okay, sidewalks on both sides, that was very high. And as a matter of fact, I was speaking at a trail conference in Minnesota, an international trails conference, and I got to hear a guy from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, talking about obesity models were tied to suburban sprawl because townships don't have sidewalks generally. And he was saying that so much of the suburban sprawl model is tied to vehicular traffic. And, you know, it took a couple years, a couple decades for people to start making that adjustment and getting exercise in different ways. Park areas is right there. Playgrounds is right in the center. So of the 5 top reasons why people buy properties, park areas, open space, trails, those are 3 of the top 5. Okay, if you could. But is there still more to this? I think we might be getting close. If you could advance it one more. It's health and well-being. I mentioned the study that Harvard did, but there's a whole bunch of work that's becoming, that's increasing. In Japan, there's a big, fascinating thing called nature bathing. You know, and there's folks in the United States that are getting their certifications, not to be an educator, Dan, but to just be someone that takes people into the out of doors. You'll advance. What we find is active lifestyles provide a myriad of health benefits. Lowered blood pressure, mental acuity. It helps offset some of the anxiety associated with dementia and Alzheimer's patients. There's just, I mean, it goes on and on and on. And at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History just 3 weeks ago, they had a lovely presentation. Their conservation symposium featured a number of speakers talking about reconnecting with nature. And there was a marvelous presentation done on the health and what mental well-being associated with spending more time outdoors. If you go down another one here, the number 1 amenity that's expected for parks and open space. Anybody want to wager your guess? What's that? Absolutely. You know, back in the 99, 2000, I was involved in putting together an 8-county regional open space plan for northeastern Ohio. And we did surveys on a countywide basis as well as the regional basis. And I've been involved in a myriad of local surveys, regional surveys, state surveys, and national surveys. The number 1 thing that people want from a park system is trails. Okay, and so if you scroll down one more, it doesn't matter if they're paved. They don't all have to be paved. As a matter of fact, if you go to some of the bigger national parks, they've got a very, very neat system of, I call it descending order of magnitude. They will pave or hard surface the heavily used trails. And then the areas that are more conducive to the folks that are wearing hiking boots, they're going to be improved trails, not paved trails, but improved trails. And then for the real nature enthusiasts, they do improved primitive trails that may mark the way. Okay, and so, you know, this is something you could. The wonderful thing about trails, and you could scroll down one more here, that would be great. They're multi-seasonal. You can use them year-round. Okay. I knew that it was time for me to retire and leave the public sector when I got a phone call. I'm going to digress here for a moment. I got a phone call one morning while I was in Toledo, and this lady was asking me why they our guys hadn't plowed the trails or snow shoveled the trails at Secor Metroparks. And now, look, we all live in the snow belt, you know? We answered questions like, did you shovel your roof off? You know, no, I didn't need it. We only got 24 inches that time. This lady called and she wanted to know why we hadn't plowed the trails at the park, and we had gotten about a half inch of snow. So you got people that that's going to be a barrier to them. But it's surprising how many people you see year round out on the trails. If you could go down again, Dave. They're multi-generational. You see seniors, you see kids. I had a guy that used to plow my driveway, and he was a real curmudgeon, And when Lake Metroparks was involved in the bike trail, the section of the bike trail that we got, he was pulling in my driveway to plow the drive, and I was getting ready to leave. I was home at lunch. He puts down his window and he goes, "Steve, I got something to say to you." I go, "What's that?" And I was like, "Herb, I got to go back to work. I don't have time to really chat." "No, this won't take long. You know what the problem is with that bike trail?" I was like, "No, Herb." I was expecting to hear a waste of tax dollars, all that kind of stuff. He goes, "You didn't go far enough." He goes, "I get out there with my grandkid. I don't have to worry about him getting hit. It's the greatest thing in the world. I don't understand why you didn't go right through Quail Hollow." Well, okay, Herb, I gotta go. I'm gonna pick myself up off the floor here, and dust the snow off my back. But, they're multi-generational. And if we could, what we also find that, active outdoors lifestyles provide emotional and mental well-being. And I mentioned the anxiety factor and whatnot. There's been a number of studies that just exposure to images of nature can enhance the rapidity in which people heal after surgery. John has gotten a tremendous amount of research, and I've came across some on my own, where they've taken folks and put them in bare walls or walls with contemporary art and walls in a hospital recovery room that have a nature mural on them. And they can consistently mark, believe it or not, an enhanced recovery rate on that. But so there's these emotional benefits that, if we can advance here, there's been a number of studies that have indicated that time outdoors prior to tests for school kids, college kids, are enhanced as opposed to children that don't get the same outdoor exposure. Okay. So there's some really, really fascinating work that's being done on this. And if you could, go on down. So I mentioned the whole deal about fly fishing and reducing stress. And the gentleman that just stepped out of the room, he asked about the cost associated. And there have been work done on the offsetting cost to a community associated with having good outdoor recreation and accessibility amenities as opposed to those that don't. And you can take a community that's known for its outdoor recreation like Boulder, Colorado, for example, and you can contrast and compare that with an area that's not as quite accessible to outdoor amenities. And it holds up. It's a remarkable study. You can scroll down. By the way, the other thing that's fascinating is a lot of outdoor activities are lifelong recreational pursuits. Now think about this for a minute. We've got so many kids that are involved in organized sports. And this is one of the things that Loeb talks about in Last Child in the Woods. Okay? You put a kid into t-ball, football, soccer, whatever, and then these are all good things. They're all healthy things. Okay? He plays those activities until he gets into junior high, and then they start to die off a little bit. And then high school, they're weeded out a little bit more. By the time they go to college, they're maybe playing on some intramural teams, but even a lot of college athletes, by the time they leave college, they're playing maybe on church leagues. Okay, if they're really committed to any of the big professional sports, these folks are getting their recreational activity by sitting on the couch and watching the Sunday football game. Okay, the difference with outdoor activities is you can do it alone, you can do it in a group oftentimes, and it's something that most of these activities you can do from the time you're a toddler until you die. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, and it's a very important difference between other types of recreation. If you could go down one more, that would be good. They provide physical, emotional, and mental benefits. That's kind of a summary statement there. And if you advance one more, this is from 2002, and there's been a lot more work done. The real ringer in this slide, and this goes back to the comment that you were making. Every $1 investment in trails for physical activity led to a $2.94